I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. First of all, I'm the chair of the Real Property Committee in the New York State Assembly, and we have had bills to require continual assessment of properties every 3 years to 5 years. I actually put in a constitutional amendment to require that we had to do it every 5 years. We were under the Constitution to do it. The bills all passed through my committee, and Senator Betty Little got them passed through her committee in the Senate, and they just die after that. And what is the reason? I think the reason is about, on the state level, us requiring people to spend money, because when you reassess, you have to spend money. That's one of the issues. We're trying very hard not to do the mandates and so on, although this does go back away. And the other issue is that people generally won't say, my constitutional amendment, I kind of laughed at myself, and I said, okay, if we put out a constitutional amendment saying we have to reassess our properties every 5 years, are people going to vote for it? Is the public really going to vote to have their properties reassessed? When your properties are reassessed in most communities, it's usually a third of the people stay the same, a third of the people go up, and a third of the people go down. The problem is you don't know where you're going to be in all that. And it is very hard, and it's been hard. The two counties that are the worst about reassessment, one Westchester and one Suffolk County, the two of them have been terrible. And it has an impact, really, on the rest of the state. It has an impact on county taxes, so many things that happen. Now, I have to tell you, for Westchester County's perspective, we did pass a bill in both houses to require reassessment, I think about 12 or 15 years ago, and the governor vetoed the bill. So it didn't happen. There is an effort, again, to have reassessment in some communities. Bronxville has done it. I believe that Mamaroneck is doing it. Some communities in Westchester are starting to do the reassessment. I haven't heard Cortland talk about it. I haven't heard Yorktown talk about it, although when Linda Cooper was supervisor of Yorktown, she was talking about it, and she did lead the charge to get it done. But there is a discussion about doing countywide assessment in Westchester. I don't know whether that will happen or not. There has been discussion about countywide assessment actually in Putnam County. It hasn't happened, or having some kind of a facilitated effort so everybody is in the same wavelength, because your county taxes are also based on having real good assessment of every property and to be sure it's up to date. So we have been trying. It's just I can't get my colleagues. I am so much in favor of it. I'm in favor of countywide school districts. I taught in a countywide school district in Virginia. It worked fine. It saved money. My teacher's salary came out of the county. I was hired by the county. We were instructed by the county, and it worked. And I don't understand around here how we have to have everything so small. I've been trying very hard to get people to think about coordination, but when I've done polls in my district, what comes back is, no, we're not willing to address school issues. We're willing to address combining courts, sometimes police, maybe recreation, parks, but everybody wants to avoid the school. And I don't know whether it's about the name of the football team. I don't know what it is. But it is something that people are just, not into. But, it doesn't necessarily help the people that are here because you're in a larger school district. But when you sit and you see Garrison and Houghton as two small school districts, will the state ever come in and say a school district of 500 or less than 1,000 students have to combine? It was recommended by our former Lieutenant Governor, Stan Lundeen, but it really wasn't picked up, by people. There has been an effort here in Putnam County. There's some people basically on this side of the county, I'm trying to think of their names, Joyce Mitchell from Kent and some others that have had county-wide meetings about schools trying to pull together. I don't know whether that way you could pull out a piece, all the people that end up in Westchester back up into Putnam if you had a countywide school district. That would be intriguing to do because I haven't seen, I really haven't seen people getting out of school districts. But we were talking about Old White Plains. I went to White Plains High School, and that was Valhalla, Silver Lake in Harrison. It was Hartsdale and Greenburgh, and then they all separated out. So that's kind of like the old, most times now, there's been more combination of schools versus separating out. So maybe we can go that direction. What intrigued me about two things, I really think there should be like a working meeting with a Lakeland school person about how they're assessing the different parts of this district. Maybe I'd be glad to go along and maybe bring somebody down from the state to really kind of look at that, Brian. And the other thing is, can you get by with looking at reassessing the Continental Village part? I think that's very intriguing also, about the values as your property taxes go up, what's the value of your home. It's certainly a selling point, when you, I haven't bought a house in a long time, but when you have a house and you look at the taxes, that's really key. Do you think legally that can be done? It can be done. So, I think that might also be a good thing to do. If you want to combine school districts, what has to happen is the school boards, and I think that happened in Haldane and Garrison, number of years ago, where the school boards each looked at it, you do a study and so on. It has to come from the school board, but it has to be the public pushing the school board to go forward with looking at something like this. The
How do
public
we
can't be
push?
science.
We
You gotta go to
represent
board
such a
meetings.
small portion of the Lakeland school district.
Well, it doesn't matter. Get a petition signed, get there, get your voices heard. Yeah. You just,
But I mean, if this number of people
Right.
came to a Lakeland,
Session where you can't hear a word they're saying. Everything's executive session, what did you say? Okay, we're gonna recess to executive session. And then you have no recourse because you don't know what they're saying behind closed doors.
but the rules about executive session, it is employee benefits, for the personnel issues, it's a lawsuit, or maybe it's a purchasing of a building and you don't want to have all that out. And nothing else is supposed, if they're doing that, something is wrong. But you should go there, I'm sure at the beginning of a meeting, there's an opportunity for the public to speak.
No, it's at the end of the second week, the second meeting of the month. That's when you have 3 minutes to speak, and that's it.
Okay, so get a lot of people there for 3 minutes. And just keep going with
Easier
it.
said than done. Why can't you get a lot of people to sign a bill up in Albany to get this solved? Same
Well,
thing.
what do you want, I have a bill to have, the reassessment continually.
Right, it comes out of your committee.
It
but
comes
the
out of
other
my
committee
committee,
came
I'm
out.
for it, how are we gonna get my colleagues for it?
Well, the ones that, you put it up for a vote, the ones that don't vote, you send a letter out to your constituents and say, these people said no to it.
Right, but you have to have enough people that really wanna do it, you see,
If you
that's
ask-
the problem.
If you ask, I have asked the members of the board
Constituents.
exactly
Okay.
what the problem is and, with the equalization and everything else. I have been told constantly and consistently, go to the state. We can't do anything about it. It has nothing to do with us with the equalization. It has nothing to do with us with the formulas. It has everything to do with the state. That's their answer. Just go to the state.
Right,
So-
the state doesn't assess,
No,
right?
they-
But the state
The state doesn't decide, on teacher salaries. All right, I mean, a lot of times you pass, people pass it off. The thing that the state does, and Brian had mentioned it, is the segment special, special rate, special assessment district. And, I live in the Austin School District, which is made up of Yorktown, Portland, and Newcastle. And there was a section of Newcastle called Millwood near Route 100 that felt that their rates were probably the highest of all the four communities. And they went to the Board of Assessment and Review in Albany, and they've had some good years and bad years. It's very hard to fight it, because as Brian said, you have to show the differential is more than 10%, I think it is 10%. And sometimes you can do it and sometimes you can't. That's why I think this other is a more maybe intriguing way to go, or to find out, who's making those decisions in the Lakeland schools, which we heard tonight, and maybe there's something amiss that's going on that way. But the other thing is also cutting the costs in our school districts. I mean, bottom line is, where do we cut the costs? And that's one of the things we all need to work on.